everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and today, as you can see clearly on the table here in front of me, we have Nemesis Lockdown from Awaken Realms, recently landing here in Canada for me. Very excited to dig into this one with you guys in a showcase, showing you how to set the game up in a true solo fashion, and also get to a playthrough of this final version. Now, it's worth mentioning, inside the pinned comment and video description, you're going to find links to my original Nemesis Lockdown preview video I did a couple years back for the crowdfunding campaign. I was able to do it with the designer himself. That was a real awesome experience, and be able to get an idea as to how this game plays. But now with the final version here in front of me, it's time to actually dig in and see how things have either tweaked, adjusted, or enhanced from that original preview. Now, one other thing I want to mention is there have been a number of Nemesis playthroughs here on the channel for the original version of the game, so if you want to see even more gameplay that touches on different facets of how you can enjoy Nemesis, I'll put links to those in the pinned comment and video description as well. Now, what is Nemesis Lockdown? Well, it's a standalone expansion to the original Nemesis experience. You can play this game just as it is here without adding or taking away anything from inside this box. However, you can mix and match things between them if you wish, and there are rules around that. However, during this showcase, we're going to be solely playing things as they are just inside this standalone Lockdown experience. We'll also see a couple of additions from the crowdfunding campaign, like for instance the playmat here, but we'll have most of this stuff during this playthrough will be all housed from this core box only. And I'm going to be going through this trying to survive in a true solo fashion with one character, hoping to make it out alive. And as you guys mostly know, Nemesis has a lot of checks in terms of whether or not you actually win the game, and the odds are stacked against you. So there's definitely a huge survival element to this experience, and I'm looking forward to diving into it with you guys. So without further ado, let's go ahead and walk through all the steps to get a true solo experience of Nemesis Lockdown to the table. We're going to start things off with the board setup, which runs through 1 through 14 steps to get that set up. Then we'll move to the crew setup afterwards. So the very first step of the board setup is, of course, to place the board in the center of the table. And this one is best seated vertical, as you're going to be traversing through different levels inside of this board. You'll see color coding across the top, middle, and bottom, blue, green, and red, for the varying levels inside of the facility here. Again, we are on Mars. Now, if you want to play the advanced mode, you can flip this thing over and you'll have a completely different map in order to play, with some additional rules on top of everything else. But I highly recommend you start with the original regular mode of Lockdown first, just to get your head around the game, and then move into the advanced version later on. So let's move on to step number 2, which is all about placing the tiles for the different locations or rooms inside the facility. You'll want to go through the room tiles and make sure you've grouped things together in terms of the room number 1 tiles, which will be labeled on the back, and room 2 tiles, also labeled on the back. There will be 3 tiles that need to be placed first, though. That is the repository far up north there, the backup power supply down the bottom left, and the isolation room, which is just cut off halfway down at the bottom of the screen. The repository should be face up, as well as the backup power supply. The isolation room should be placed like this, and it's worth noting that inside the rulebook, it shows visually that it's flipped to the other side. However, you want to make sure that the side with the action on it is not showing face up. So I've done that here. Now, you'll notice all over the game board, there's different room areas with different Roman numerals all over them. You have 1s and 2s. So you're going to take the room decks and you're going to break them up, making sure you have the 1s in one stack, the 2s in another, randomly shuffle them together without looking, and then randomly place them out all over the game board. All the room 1 tiles have been placed in all the designated spots on the game board, and you'll notice there's none left. That can't be said for the room 2 tiles. As we place them out on the game board, there will be a few remaining afterwards, ensuring that every game you play is going to be different in terms of which rooms are a part of the experience. With all the room tiles now placed, the 3 that I didn't end up placing, you do not look at and just place them back in the box. Next, go ahead and take the underground exploration tokens, place them all face down, shuffle them around a little bit so you have no idea which ones are seated in which position, and then randomly place one on top of each of the room tiles that have not been revealed yet. So in other words, the 3 tiles that have been revealed from the very beginning, backup power supply, isolation room, and the repository, do not get one of these tokens. All the underground exploration tokens have now been placed on all the unrevealed rooms. You'll notice there are some that are not going to be used. Place those back in the box without looking at them. This will change up which tokens are in play every single time you play the game. You'll also come across inside the box exploration tokens that look like this. And these orange back ones are for the surface exploration tokens, which are only used on the advanced side of the game board, which is the opposite side that we're playing right now. So make sure not to mix these in when setting up for a regular game of Lockdown. Next up, we're going to place the elevator, main gate, and rover on the board. You can see here the elevator has been placed on level number 2. This is where the elevator starts the game. The main gate seals off the exit at the top of the facility, which leads to a rover. Both of these miniatures have been placed, and just so you're aware, there are tokens for these inside the core box of Lockdown, whereas these pieces, these miniatures, come from the stretch goal box just to enhance the look of things on the table. Something else you'll want to have handy inside of the core box are tokens for the doors. If you have the stretch goals box, you're going to have these miniatures, which not only represent a door, but can actually be ripped in half to show that the door has been destroyed, which you'll see during gameplay. The next step is all about power tokens. There are 4 of them in the game. I'm keeping them on the red side for now. I'm going to stack them in my hand. I'm going to shuffle these without looking at them underneath the table, so I have no idea what the order of the numbers is going to be. And then I'm going to place them starting at the very top of the game board and working my way down to ensure that I'm randomizing them, because what's going to happen is the number 1 power token and number 2 power token are going to flip to their energized or powered side. And depending on where they're at, which is going to be completely random at the start of setup, those 2 areas are going to have power. So in order to ensure you're not staging the game, do this randomly and do it without looking. Just so you can have an idea as to where these power tokens are going to sit in a moment, at the very top up there in blue with the bolt icon is one location for the top level. The yellow one is for the second level, and it's right there in the middle on the left-hand side of the playmat. And then down below here in red is the third and final lower level, which is actually even below the screen itself with more rooms off screen. And then of course the elevator itself uses power. After shuffling these power tokens without looking and then placing them top to bottom, I've got them in position now at the very top. The top level is a 2, the middle yellow level is a 4, and the bottom level is a 1. The elevator is a 3, and as I mentioned, the 1 and the 2 power token are going to flip to their energized or powered side. That's all we need to do for the power tokens. Let's now move to the CSS tokens. Find the 7 CSS tokens, place them face down, and shuffle them around so you have no idea what's on the other side of them. And then we're going to go ahead and place these in the slots on the game board itself at the very top. I'll show you where that is. And just like that, all 6 CSS tokens have been placed, including the one that's hiding behind the main gate. The next step is to place the Night Stalker's laboratory board next to the game board. We also need to place 5 eggs in the nest area in the top right. Now find all the Night Stalker weakness cards. There are 6 of them. You're going to shuffle them up without looking and place 3 of them across the bottom of this laboratory board. With the 3 weaknesses in position, we now reveal the very first one. It states Fragile Endoskeleton. Any classic or melee weapon attack that deals at least 1 injury deals an additional injury. So this is a known weakness we have going into the gameplay. We don't know the other 2 weaknesses just yet. Next up, we need to build out the intruder bag. You're going to go ahead and categorize each of these by their type in stacks. Make sure not to look at the bottoms of them and shuffle them around a little bit so you have no idea which ones are which. And in terms of which of these tokens are for which intruder symbols, the top left-hand corner one there is a larva. The one right beside it to the right is a creeper, the very small stack. And then the tallest stack is the adult stack that looks like an S. Down the bottom left, we have the breeder, then the actual queen, and then a blank token. So which of these tokens are going to the bag from the start? In terms of setup, you'll have 1 blank token going in, 4 larva, 1 creeper, 1 queen, and 3 adults. Now you'll also be adding an additional adult intruder token for each player taking part in the game. So I'll be adding 1 extra adult for a total of 4. Take all of those tokens and throw them inside the bag. I'm also giving you a close-up shot of a rule summary, and there's also rooms reference sheets underneath of this bag. You're going to want to keep these within easy reach as well, especially with your first couple plays of Nemesis Lockdown. The rest of the intruder tokens that you don't use can be slotted inside of the organizer that comes inside the game. In the very top right hand corner, you'll also see a whole bunch of other components all categorized into different slots here to make things easy to find as you go through gameplay. The next step is a big one. You're going to shuffle and place the following decks face down next to the board. You're going to have your 3 item decks, each with its own color. They're green, red, and yellow. The Night Stalker event deck, the Night Stalker attack deck, the contamination deck, the serious wound deck, and also we'll place the computer action deck shortly afterwards. This also includes the crafted item deck, and you're going to want to put the scanner next to the contamination deck. You'll see all of this in just a moment. And just like that, everything has been placed out. Now, one change that I'm making personally, beyond what the setup states, is the craft deck, which is a blue back deck I've actually placed face up, and I've broken into the 5 different things you can craft during the game. Now, why did I do this? Because it's not hidden information, and you don't draw blindly from the craft deck. You actually purposely try and craft certain items, so you actually have a visible idea as to what those things are. And there's 3 of each of them. Across the top, you'll see 5 different items that I could potentially make, like a neutralizer or an enviro suit or a taser, a flamethrower, or a pistol. But now I can see all that information up close and personal to help me make better decisions as I go through gameplay. You'll remember moments ago I mentioned a computer action deck. Well, at this point, we're going to shuffle that deck together and place it in this location. Now we're going to go ahead and reveal the top card. If the top card happens to be the lockdown card, we're going to go ahead and reshuffle the deck and draw again and reveal a card. We do not need to see or want to see the lockdown card as the very first one for setup. It will be in the deck, and it certainly will throw wrenches into your plans, but it shouldn't be the first one that's sitting there when it's revealed. We ended up with computer action C. This is A-OK, so we'll move on to the next step. We're now in the final 2 steps of the board setup, and at this point it just lists off a ton of tokens and markers and dice, everything that you can keep close by inside of the organizer that comes inside the core box. And honestly, I recommend this because taking it all out and just putting it all over the table really causes quite a mess. So leave it inside of here and just make sure to keep it organized, and it'll be easy to find what you need when you need it. Next, find the alert procedure token, the auto-destructive token, and the venting token. Just place them near the game board somewhere. They may be called upon as you play through the game. The final step of the board setup is to place the time token inactive red side up on the 15th green space of the time track. You can see it on the far left. And that's going to wrap up the board setup. Now let's move to the crew setup. The first step of the crew setup is to find the help cards. You'll find 3 of them, 1 contingencies, the other intruder bag development, and finally, depending on the players, and in this case playing true solo just 1, you'll grab player card number 1. All of these have references that you'll want to keep within easy reach as you play through the game. Each player then gets 1 plastic inventory card holder with the same number as their help card. Playing solo again, this is a number 1 on the back side of this card tray. The next thing you need to try and find is the solo and cooperative objective deck. You're going to take a look at all these cards face up at the beginning because, as you'll notice with one example I have on screen here, face up, that there is a number listed on the card right in the middle. It says 1+ on this wake up call, which means this is a card you'll use as part of the deck when playing true solo. There is a couple cards or a few cards inside of this deck that are 2+. So you'll only use those if you're playing cooperatively. If you're playing true solo like I'm about to do, take those 2+ cards out of the equation and just comprise the deck of only cards that have the 1+. Go ahead, shuffle them up, and draw 2 of them. These are going to be your starting objectives, and you'll have to choose one the first time you have an encounter. After shuffling up the cards and drawing 2, we have Proving Your Worth on the left and Insider Knowledge on the right. Again, you're only going to have one of these cards once you have your first encounter. You'll have to make a choice as to which one you want to do, and you'll notice on each card there is 2 paths for you to follow in order to complete that objective. Next up are the contingency tokens, and there are a total of 7 of these. When you're playing solo, you're going to go ahead, flip these over, shuffle them up. You're going to place one in the active contingency slot in the top right-hand corner of the game board. Then you're going to go ahead and draw 2 of them from the neutral pool of remaining contingencies. These will be face up in front of your character that you're playing when playing true solo, so that you know that 2 of them are not part of the equation, but you won't know which one is the active contingency. It'll just help you to whittle down which ones it could be. After shuffling, randomly drawing 1, the active contingency has been placed, and now we're going to draw 2 more and flip them face up. The 2 I received face up are Save All and Kill All who did not send the signal. So these 2 are out of play, but we are aware of what they are, whittling down what the active contingency could be. The remaining contingencies are then placed in the neutral pool in the center of the board. The next step is all around a character draft. There are draft cards inside the box which allow you to blindly select a character in order to control as part of your play. For me personally, I want to try the Janitor. If I'm playing true solo inside of a facility, who best to be left inside of a facility to fend for himself than just a janitor? So that's exactly who I'm going to be. I've gone ahead and found the miniature that is represented right on the actual dashboard for the character as well. I've also gone ahead and found the 2 cards associated with the character, a quest card called Pressure Washer and a nail gun, both of those showing Janitor on the bottom of the cards, and slotted them in. Basically keeping my quest item over here, left hand, right hand. The nail gun sits in the left hand for now. On the far left hand side of this board, I have my action cards deck. I'm showing them face up. They will be face down and shuffled. Just wanted to show them face up so you could see that you'll just easily look for the actual same color scheme in order to find the right deck, plus the actual names right on the cards themselves. A couple things I want to talk about quickly. The nail gun, which I have in my left hand, states right on it, ammo 3 of 3. So I do get to start with 3 ammo with this particular weapon. So I place 3 red cubes beside it to denote that. Also, you'll notice the knowledge token. The knowledge token that you take correlates to the color of the character, but you'll also see it easily in the top left-hand corner of the dashboard. This token is going to end up going on the laboratory board, which will be placed in a specific location based on the character that you use. The character you use, if it's a Nemesis survivor, is going to start in the isolation room. If it's a facility worker, you're going to start in the repository room. So the janitor, being part of Lockdown, is going to start in the repository room. With this now set, we're going to go ahead and now place the knowledge token inside the laboratory depending on the character we used. And we know this individual is a facility worker, so that will dictate where on the knowledge track our knowledge token goes. As the janitor is a facility worker, he'll be starting his knowledge token in the first position of the track. Other characters that are not facility workers start in the 3rd position, and why this is important is because if they do start in the 3rd position, as you'll see by the dividing line between the weaknesses, it means that that individual is knowledgeable enough to make use of the known weakness that is revealed to this point. So we have a card revealed here, and being that our knowledge is at 1, we still can't make use of this weakness until we increase our knowledge up to 3 at least. Nemesis survivors from the original game that are coming into Nemesis Lockdown, however, have experienced the aliens or alien species before, so they do have some knowledge coming into the equation, beginning their knowledge track at 3, allowing them to make use of the weakness at the beginning right out of the gates. And that, my friends, is going to wrap up the setup video for Nemesis Lockdown from Awaken Realms. Stay tuned to the channel as we dive into a true solo playthrough with the janitor as he has to make a tough decision on his objectives once we reach our very first encounter inside of the game, and hopefully come out the other side of it with a victory. But we all know that Nemesis does have some odds stacked against you, so it should be quite exciting to see whether I can actually pull this off or not. Now, if you're not part of the Rolling Solo Facebook community, which is a large group at this point, well over 5,500 members in that group, we definitely recommend you jump in there. There's a lot of game sharing going on, of solo games on the table, games people are interested in, and information that you can find around solo gaming. Also, we have a Discord which you can jump in on, and that's also extremely active as well. And then, of course, the Patreon, which is the backbone of the channel, supporting and ensuring that this continues on into the future and we're able to explore other avenues as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.